A quiet autumn morning in Messina, fishermen haul nets, sails appear on the horizon, a Genoese galley glides in without a wave returned, a curious dockhand boards, and meets a stench like rot-made air. Bodies, buboes, blackened skin. Those ships carry more than cargo. They carry death. Within years, towns will vanish, and millions will fall. This is the story of how the Black Death met a confident Europe and remade it. Chapter 1. Europe on the Eve. Europe in the 1340s was no backwater. Its population had nearly tripled since the year 1000, about 75 million people. Market towns stitched a continent together. Paris may have counted 200,000 souls, the largest European city since Rome. Gothic cathedrals rose like stone geometry lessons, their ribbed vaults and flying buttresses proof that faith and engineering could share a language. Universities at Paris, Oxford, and Bologna taught a cosmos that seemed comprehensible. Thomas Aquinas had woven Aristotle into Christian theology, offering a framework that claimed to explain everything from planetary motion to human purpose. After the Great Famine of 1315 to 1317, prosperity had mostly returned. Yet the very strengths of this world, dense towns, endless trade, close human-animal contact, were also its cracks. Confidence was high, resilience untested. Chapter 2. Where Death Began. Far from Europe's bell towers, in the high valleys of the Tian Shan, modern Kyrgyzstan, an old bacterium found new teeth. Yersinia pestis, long endemic in wild rodent colonies, marmots, ground squirrels, mutated around 1338 into a more human virulent form. Maybe climate shifts thinned animal hosts. Maybe human encroachment brought fleas closer to people. Maybe chance did what chance always does. Whatever the cause, plague leapt from burrows into the bloodstream of history. The pathogen did not travel alone. It hitched rides on fleas, clinging to rats, on fabrics, on hope, on habit. It needed only what the age had in abundance: connection. Chapter 3. Highways of silk and pestilence. For centuries, the Silk Road had ferried spices, silk, ideas, and reputations across Eurasia. In the 1300s, Mongol control knitted much of that expanse together. What enriched empires could also doom them. Caravans that once carried cinnamon now carried contagion. Ships that bore alum and wool also bore fleas fed on infected rats. At Caffa, today Theodosia, Crimea, a Genoese trading post, met a grim legend. In 1346, plague ravaged the Mongol army besieging the city. A commander, watching his forces collapse, allegedly ordered plague corpses catapulted over the walls. An early echo of biological warfare, chaos bloomed. Genoese merchants fled by sea, loading what goods they could salvage, and without knowing it, the infected stowaways that mattered: rats and their fleas. Chapter 4. Landfall at Messina. October 1347. 12 Genoese galleys limp into Messina. The harbor master finds decks strewn with the dead. The living barely look. Human, blackened lesions, swollen buboes, blood and pus. Officials drive the ships away. It doesn't matter. Like water seeping through a cracked dam, plague finds its gap and floods in. Imagine Maria, a young mother near the quay. She watches the ships turned out and feels relief. A week later, her husband is dead. 2 weeks later, her children. By month's end, she lies in a mass grave beyond the walls. Her story multiplies by tens of millions. From Sicily, the disease travels with unnerving logic along the map's bright lines. Merchant lanes to Genoa and Venice, Roman roads into river valleys, across alpine passes. Every artery of connection becomes a corridor of death. Chapter 5. A continent in freefall. Between 1347 and 1352, at least one-third of Europe dies, 25+ million people, while some regions face 50 to 60% mortality. This isn't gradual decline, it is catastrophe moving at the velocity of rumor. Paris turns into a charnel city. Chroniclers write of streets lined with corpses, churches overflowing, bells tolling until no one remains to ring them. One priest laments, "We who remain walk among the dead and know not if we shall join them by evening." The population may fall from approximately 200,000 to under 100,000. In Florence, Giovanni Boccaccio watches social fabric rip. In the Decameron, he notes how people breakfasted with family and supped with ancestors. Burial rites collapsing into mass pits, bodies stacked like cargo. London suffers the great mortality. The Thames carries bodies to the sea. Emergency cemeteries like East Smithfield fill with thousands, their bones still bearing bubonic scars beneath today's soil. Small places fare worst. Villages vanish. Fields go into scrub, doors hanging open, churches empty. Names survive only as lines in old tax rolls. Terror corrodes trust. Parents abandon infected children. Spouses flee spouses. Priests sometimes refuse last rites. As Matteo Villani observed, relatives can scarcely be found to tend the sick or bury the dead. The social contract isn't frayed. It's gone. Chapter 6. Medicine unmoored. Medieval physicians weren't fools. They were highly trained in Galen, Hippocrates, Avicenna. But the plague did not care for humors or balance. It offered three faces. Bubonic plague raised hard, burning swellings, buboes in groin, armpit, or neck. A doctor in Montpellier wrote, "When they burst, the stench fills the room, and death follows within days." Pneumonic plague went for the lungs, spreading person to person by droplets. It could erase a household in a day. Septicemic plague entered the bloodstream and ended life within hours, blackening extremities, the popular source of the term Black Death. Treatments ranged from herbal decoctions and bloodletting to burning aromatics against bad air. Quack cures multiplied, drinking urine, powdered unicorn horn, and the insanely expensive theriac, a many-ingredient relic cure-all. None of it worked. The failure of learned medicine cracked confidence in other authorities. If the university-trained could not explain or heal, what else might be untrue? Chapter 7. Sin, Scapegoats, and Processions. In a world where disaster signifies divine judgment, explanations rush in. Some declare humanity so sinful that another flood would be just. Flagellant bands march from town to town, whipping themselves bloody in public penance, processions that tragically become super-spreader events. The search for culprits grows vicious. Jews, already marginalized, are accused of poisoning wells or conspiring with devils, despite dying at the same rates as Christians. Pogroms flare across parts of Germany and France. Entire communities are burned, property seized. A Jewish merchant in Strasbourg pleads, "We die as you die. We weep as you weep. Yet you call us the authors of this misery." Under stress, people prefer a manageable evil to an unmanageable catastrophe. Hatred gives the illusion of control. Rumor becomes ritual. Some swear that figures in white mark doomed doorways at night. Others insist Death himself stalks Avignon. A foul odor, many claim, precedes outbreaks by days. Fear writes its own science. Chapter 8. Institutions collapse. Feudalism is personal, lord and vassal, oath and obligation. But death is impersonal, and it cuts both ends of the bond. Noble lines blink out, estates founder in disputes. The church, usually Europe's steadiest pillar, buckles. Priests and monks who minister to the dying perish at high rates. Monasteries empty. Libraries stagnate. Markets that thrummed since Roman days stop. The web of credit and craft tears. Italian banking houses, once the nervous system of kings, fold as agents die faster than they can be replaced. The mechanics of mourning fail. Cities dig mass graves outside walls. When those fill, bodies burn in pyres or lie unburied. To many, that sight, more than any sermon, signals the end times. Boccaccio records the unthinkable. Brother abandoned brother, oftentimes husband abandoned wife. Fathers and mothers left their own children as if they were strangers. It is not cruelty, so much as a species trying any way it can to survive. Chapter 9. After the wave. By the early 1350s, the first great wave wanes, not because medicine triumphed, but because plague had exhausted hosts. What emerges is a smaller Europe, but a changed one. Labor scarcity flips the social script. Peasants who survived can negotiate. An English petition says it plain, "My lord, the fields lie fallow, not for want of seed, but for want of hands. If you would have grain, you must offer more than custom." The Statute of Laborers, 1351, tries to freeze wages at old rates. The economy shrugs. The church, thinned and humbled, faces reform pressures. People who watched theologians die like everyone else turn toward more direct spirituality. Intellectually, certainty fractures. If authoritative systems fail to predict or protect, perhaps knowledge needs new foundations. Observation, experiment, and the slow courage to say, "We don't know," before we claim that we do. Art and literature absorb the lesson. The dance macabre, skeletons leading popes and peasants, kings and cobblers, parades across frescoes and margins to remind everyone of mortality's democracy. Medicine inches toward empiricism, counting cases, watching symptoms, learning from what happens instead of what books insist should happen. The result is not a renaissance born overnight, but a reorientation. The catastrophe that exposed human limits also sparked human adaptation. The old order cannot be restored. A new order must be invented. Chapter 10. What it leaves us. The Black Death is a mirror held to any connected age, ours included. Interdependence creates prosperity and multiplies risk. Supply lines and information networks then and now move miracles and miseries with equal ease. The lesson is not to sever ties, but to build resilience inside them. Better observation, faster response, honest communication, shared responsibility. The plague humbled the medieval claim to total understanding and, in the same gesture, invited a sturdier kind of knowledge, one tested against the world as it is. It revealed a hard truth about fear. In crisis, scapegoats feel safer than uncertainty. The antidotes, education, empathy, law, are not luxuries. They are infrastructure, and yet the story is not a dirge. It is a ledger with two columns. In one, loss beyond measuring. In the other, adaptation. Wages rise, serfs walk, thought loosens from dogma, art looks death in the eye, and then keeps painting. A Parisian letter after the plague put it with quiet courage. We who remain are fewer, but perhaps wiser. We have seen the worst that fate can bring, and yet we still plant seeds for next year's harvest. That is the final image to keep. A hand pressing seed into soil while the bell still tolls. Because even after history's darkest hours, people continue, change, and build again. The Black Death was a reckoning with mortality, its aftermath, a proof of resilience,